Mr. Jamie Dimon, head of Chase Bank, he says that 3.5-day work weeks are coming. I have to find this somewhere, but one of my partners and I, we started a digital marketing company about 8 years ago, and we predicted 4-day work weeks back then. And it was very obvious at that time that 4-day work weeks were going to be something that was coming. We saw it from the perspective, and AI wasn't, it was just starting to be talked about at that time, like true mainstream AI of like, hey, this is going to be something. Obviously, people were working on it way before that. Point being is that we saw it from the aspect of outsourcing and being able to hire labor anywhere with things like Upwork, things like onlinejobs.ph, finding people that work in the Philippines, unbelievable people that work all over the world, and in seeing the great jobs they do and being able to pay a cheaper dollar rate, but it gives them an unbelievable living. And you just sat there and you're like, this is going to disrupt everything. This is going to be unbelievable. We've had many different people from all over the world work for us. And here we are years and years later. All of a sudden, we're going to be a 3.5-day work week. Of course there is. But the problem is, what money are we using? So Jamie Dimon said artificial intelligence is already being used by thousands of employees at his bank and is likely to make dramatic improvements in workers' quality of life, even if it eliminates some jobs. Your children are going to live to 100 and not have cancer because of technology. Well, that's if certain people in the health industry don't have their say with it, Jamie. And they'll probably be working 3.5 days a week. Only if you have a money that captures that deflation. That's deflationary, by the way. So when you're making less money and you're not working that much, and you have AI or robots doing your job, that's deflationary. That means that people have less money. That means they can't spend as much on other things. So now prices of everything are coming down and incomes are going down. Are you going to have a world where they're trying to print? Because we've said this again a million times. We've had Ben Bernanke 20 years ago in 2002 saying deflation, why it can't happen here. That was his paper. That was the reason he got elected as the chairman of the Federal Reserve in, I forget, 06 or I'm trying to think of when it was. But right around that time in the mid 2000s by the Bush administration, he got put into power at that time, and he and central bankers everywhere, central banking is the root of the evil. This is the Communist Manifesto. This is how they in the banking families for 300-400 years. Meyer Amschel Rothschild saying, I care not who makes the laws, but I control the money and I control the world. This is the mechanism, the conveyor belt for all of the ills we see in our society. This is how it's done, by breaking the money and having central banks controlling everything, or one central bank in the world, and then they have a bunch of their member central banks, Bank of International Settlements, a World Bank, and IMF, doing their dirty work for them. So if you want to see a good breakdown, Mark Moss has a good breakdown of that, basically, of like the couple families at the top, and then these huge, massive world banks, and then the central banks under that, and then the commercial banks, and then politicians under that, and so on and so forth. So he has an unbelievable breakdown of that. But Ben Bernanke doesn't want inflation. No central banker wants deflation. They don't want deflation because that takes their power away. That crumbles the system, and that takes their power away. Because we're in a debt-based system. The more they can print and conjure currency up out of thin air, the more they can steal from you, time and energy, and they get to live in the Hamptons, they get to live in the French countryside and do whatever they want, while you have to slave away more and more each day on the hamster wheel and get further and further behind and have too much month at the end of your money. So here we are again. If you're working 3.5 days a week, how are you going to make ends meet if a loaf of bread now costs $100 a loaf, Jamie? That's a wonderful question. The only answer that I know of, and every Bitcoiner and people that I know, probably a lot of gold bugs too, but people that truly get it, Austrian economists, etc., it's a deflationary capture. It's getting a neutral money that is deflationary in nature, that captures that deflation and then redistributes it back to the people. And the people that hold the money, the technology gains go to the people instead of inflationary currencies, soft currencies, right? So Bitcoin's a hard money, an actual money. A money has got to be a store of value. Bitcoin is the hardest money, probably the first money, true money we've ever had by definition. Gold and silver were the hardest things we had before, and maybe some other commodities. And then you get to fiat currencies, which are endless, they're infinite. You can be printed into oblivion, and that's what we have now. So we have the worst of the situation. And because of this, we need a true money that captures that deflation and redistributes those profits, those gains back to the people, because inflationary currencies, they take and consolidate all the gains and then redistribute them to the top, and then the people down below are left behind, the 99%. So this is how the game was played out. Jamie thinks that we're going to have 3.5-day work weeks, but he might know something that we don't know. How big Bitcoin is going to be going forward. And is this why they keep playing both sides, talking on both sides of their mouth, saying what 5-6 years ago, well, it's a index for money laundering, and it's brutal. I'm going to fire anyone who's trading crypto or Bitcoin in my. This is just 5-6 years ago, Jamie Dimon, and then here we are now saying, hey, we're getting into bed with Bitcoin just in the last year or two, and now in Chase Bank in UK saying, well, we're not going to allow crypto transfers here. We're not going to allow people to buy crypto out of here. So again, sending mixed signals, trying to distract the market, which again, if you read the Malthusians, that's one of the games, is to confuse and distract the people so they have no idea what to do. And when you don't have all day to study these things, like I generally have been fortunate enough to do over the last 20 years, it's very hard. They've made the fiat system makes it so hard and so distracting to understand what's going on. They've weaponized the humans' compassion and empathy against them. They've weaponized our attention against us, shortened our attention spans, made us more high time preference, meaning we can't even, we're so distracted and we get clicking on things. We're watching TikToks, playing fantasy sports, watching the Kardashians, watching another reel, and just continually being distracted from the games that are being played, and which gives the people at the top all their power. That's why all of these things, like the debt ceiling and Speaker McCarthy and Ukraine, were all distractions. These are just all complete distractions, and we're not getting down to what's actually happening. So, Jamie, I'd love to see it. I think 3.5-day work weeks will be here too. I said there'd be 4-day work weeks years and years ago, and you can't have that without a real, true, pure money, though. So what is it going to be? Are we going to have Bitcoin and freedom? Or are we going to have CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and slavery? It's up to us. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth. I think that's obvious at this point. Trust but verify. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. And again, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Please share it out, because this is the only way, it's the only way we have a possibility of winning. Truth and merit and accountability winning out. This is not financial advice. This is freedom advice, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.